morning everyone. Today we are going discussing about on another session on introduction to computer network. So in this session we are focusing about is what is internet, and at the same time we are going discussing about this two protocol, which is X.25 protocol as well as the frame relay protocol. So while coming to this first topic, which is internet. So as we know, what is internet? Internet is a global system for interconnected to the network, which means a computer network that uses the internet protocol suite and which is communicated between the networks and devices. Which means while discussing about any kind of network architecture, while discussing about internet, so today in the 5G world, we are using internet is a vital role, which means while discussing any kind of communication, while we generate information, while transmit information through internet, the information transmit very faster and it should be very accurate. So which means internet is a global system of interconnected to multiple computers. So here one computer, right? The previous discussing about one-to-one connections or one-to-many connections. So here the internet, we are able to give the connection that should be a single computer, which means a one-to-one computer or one-to-many computers. So while we communication this computer, so here we are using this internet protocol suite, which means my IP suite. So with help of this internet protocol suite, or with help of this transmission control protocol and IP tool, which means internet protocol suite, we can able to communicate the devices. We can design the number of networks, and with help of this network, we can able to communicate the n number of devices. So in this network architecture, in this network of network, which means a group of network, we having a sub kind of networks are there. So with help of this networks of network, which consist of private network, public network, academic, business, government networks of local to global scope, which is linked to a broad array of electronic, it is wireless and optical network technologies. So here while we see about this one, for example, we are able to establish one kind of network architecture. So one network architecture is not sufficient to communicate the all kind of server, all kind of system processing. So to overcome that one, based upon this domain name system value, we are segregated our systems into n number of partitions. Assume that one, for example, if we run this academic perspective, we are running this institutions perspective, which we calling as a .ac .in kind of structure. For example, our domain name is MLR Institute of Technology .ac .in. Right. So this is comes to this academic kind of perspective, which means academic kind of network architecture. At the same time, .gov.in, which is comes to this a government kind of section. So all kind of government construction, all kind of government websites come to this government policy, which is gov.in. Similarly, everywhere. For example, we are in Amazon.in. So that should be a private networks or else some kind of network architecture. For example, this should be changing based upon this the system values. For example, in Amazon, in the Indian perspective, we having as a Amazon.in. At the same time, when go for this US, that should be Amazon.us. So while changing the country perspective also, these website domains are changing. So which means here while we establishing any kind of network architecture, which consists of that should be maybe a public network or private network, based upon this the institution perspective, based upon this what kind of services we provide that one, accordingly we are providing one kind of network architecture that is going to the world. So based upon the website server, the address values, the domain name system values, we are utilizing that kind of services value. So that should be linked to by a broad band of electronics, a broad array kind of structures. We are using that one to enabling this network architecture. That should be a wireless communication or a wide kind of communication. We are using these kind of technologies. At the same time, this internet carries a vast range of information resources, which means what kind of information we are using that one, what kind of information we transmit that one. So that vast kind of range of resources we are using that one. So that services that should be similar to our interlinked hypertext documents values. So that application should be a world wide web, which means electronic mail, telephony, and what kind of filing sharing mechanism we are using that one. All the things that information carries in this architecture values only. So here where we go for this one, for example, we are in this our college website, which is mlrit.ac.in, which means here which is one is coming to this academic institutions, another one is this should be a world wide web conditions only. So what kind of application we are using that one? That should be a world wide web documents which should be coming to this our hypertext document values only. That maybe we can able to use this electronic mail, which means email or telephone email, or else what kind of file service protocol we are using that one. All the things which is we developed in this internet communications only. And so in this internet protocol, so while we while we see this one in the internet kind of structure, so this is architecture of this internet. So what kind of service are we are in this POP services, and with this internet service providers and this network access provider, and from the net to internet control. So here while we establishing this kind of architecture, while establishing this kind of architecture, while information is transmitted, while getting the net from this home to a business application, so there are many kind of network architecture is followed, which means each node of this network, which consists, so that should be maybe conventional phone, or as a digital subscriber, or a cable modem line, that should be consist of a inter-managed protocol, which is IMP protocol, that should be a host kind of structure values only. So this structure is connected to a short route path values only. So here the host should be send the information to IMP, which means the host first send information to IMP, that should be in the form of this 8063 bits information values only. That should be 8063 bits information values only, and this bits is transmitted to my internet managed protocol, which is IMP protocol. That should be my backend message, which will send information to my services values only. What was service over that one, and that should be independent to my matter. So here what kind of bits were transmitted network, and this should be acting as an independent kind of structure values only. So while we're discussing about the structure of internet, right, so assume that when the home appliances are there, so in the nowadays in everywhere we are using home appliances, or we are using internet, so through some kind of routers we are using access this Wi-Fi communication. So here while we establishing those kind of services, so here first we are using this conventional phone, or there should be a cable mode. So if we go for this a LAN kind of cable construction, we are using that one, or else we are go for this a conventional mobile phone, conventional landline phone communication, where is that one, that should be we go for this a POP communication, which means that should be my actual internet service provider. For example, today we are using Apt Internet or Hathway or Airtel. So these different kind of broadband services we are using that one. That should be the basics of my internet service provider. And there we are using different kinds of lines. There is this different kinds of line. That should be my T3 line. The transmission line also important, because while information is transmitted, while sharing information through some kind of transmission medium, the T3 line also important for us. And this line is my internet service provider to the network access provider is NAP protocol, NAP management system. So this NAP2, this is the main kind of services. So that kind of exchange mechanism to shift it to my backbone service, that should be my internet. So we can able to access the internet, my home appliances services. So while using this home, we are using this kind of services. We are using one kind of internet services, which means we are using network access provider and internet service provider. Then the internet is getting to my home appliances. Same way, this should be we are getting this one-to-one communication. This only for this commercial applications or a home appliance application. But we'll go for this a large scale a business application. So there we are establishing one kind of LAN communication. When you observe this one, here we have some kind of a digital subscriber or cable or modem, but here we are entering into this T1 line. So here we are able to enter into different kinds of gateways, different kinds of routers, different kinds of IFS card, which means interface card, we are using that one. So with help of this T1 line, right? So when you can see this one, here we have this some kind of cable mechanism, but here we are using some kind of a line kind of mechanism, T1 line kind of mechanism. With help of that one, we can able to get the LAN connection, because here one LAN can able to connect the multiple systems out there, multiple communication information is sharing over there. So we can able to access the multiple systems, or one-to-many connections should be established over there, because this should be acting as a large scale business perspective. So that is the reason we are this T1 line in this architecture. And next one, the X.25 protocol. So when come to this X.25 protocol, so this X.25 protocol, which means while using this X.25 protocol, so this is a connection oriented network. So what is connection oriented network? So while discussing about this previously, which is TCP/IP protocol or OSI reference model, so in this both the models, the TCP acting as a connection oriented mechanism, but OSI acting as a both connection oriented as well as connectionless mechanism. So in this connection oriented perspective, we are using X.25 protocol. The network layer, or else in the host to host communication layer, the X.25 network layer is playing a vital role, because while design this physical layer, when the information is transmitted from this source to destination layer, one physical layer is connected to the destination physical layer through some kind of physical communication medium. So in this domain, how we are able to architecture this value, we are going to using a X.25 physical layer network medium only. We calling as a host to host network layer medium values only. So the X.25 network is a standard because many kind of older public system, because the many kind of standard, we are using this kind of X.25 protocol, because in the earlier 1980s or 1975, after that one, we implemented this X.25 protocol. That is a older kind of public network protocol that should be especially outside in the US, and this was developed by 1970s, which means when we developing this one, while we introducing the internet at the time, so we are implementing this one. We are interfacing between a public switched telephone network to the customer, because on the time we are this a PSTN mechanism, public switching telephone network mechanism. So while we implemented that PSTN mechanism in this time duration, so we are interfacing my internet to this public switching telephone network to the customer. So this acting as one kind of a media between the customers and the service providers. And at the same time, this packet switching network, which means the X.25 protocol. So here, what is this X.25 protocol? Because while we establish one kind of architecture, this protocol, with the help of this protocol, we can able to activate one kind of media to one kind of accessing path to the customers, so enabling this internet access. So here, the recommendations were prepared 1976 and revised in 78, 80 and 84. Actually, this installed in 1970s, but later on the implementing processes changes, network architecture is changes, and layers should be added, and there should be updation versions going on the 78, 80 and later on 84. And this X.25 packet switching network, which means this kind of network architecture, which allows to the remote to the device to communicate with each other across a high-speed data link, so without expense of any individual leased lines. So assume that one in the olden days, nowadays we are using 2G communications or 3G, 4G, and we are using 5G communication. But in the early 1980s, we don't have that kind of communication perspective. We are able to use this internet at the duration. What kind of device we are using that one? If you go for this a remote kind of device, we go for this a virtual kind of devices, we can able to use to communicate. The remote device can use to communicate this one. So here, each device across the whatever architecture presents the device we are using that one, that should be high speed digital links values only, and that should be without any kind of expensive values only, because in the end of the day, customers should be getting this a cheaper values, because they won't get involved into expense kind of medium. So we are able to provide as a without any expense of this protocol, with the expense of this internet communication, the same kind of connection oriented we are using that one, same kind of breaches subscriber using that one, same kind of home appliances PSTN mechanism we using that one. That we won't cost any extra for that one, without any kind of expensive of this individual customers. At the same time, this is a connection oriented service. As we discussed this one, this protocol is developed in this host to host network. That should be a TCP model or else OSA model. That should be a connection oriented communication, which is in the host to host layer or else in the network access layer, which should be supported the virtual circuit as well as the permanent circuit. So while discussing here, we're discussing about remote device. Similarly here also, we are able to integrating the remote devices to communicate one system to another system or one system to many system. We are able to establish in the virtual circuits, which means remotely you can able to access a system that must be a virtual circuit. So here we can able to access in the virtual circuit system as well as the permanent circuit system. We can able to integrate our 2.4 protocol that should be working the both the scenarios. It should be a virtual circuit scenario as well as the permanent circuit scenario. And this protocol provides the flow control and avoid faster sender overriding the slow or busy receivers. We are discussing earlier as well. So in the data link layer, in the OSA reference model, as well as in this IP layer, in this TCP reference model, these are providing the flow control mechanism. Right. What is flow control here? We are able to our transmit is very fast, but receiver is very slow. In the duration, some kind of information is lost, some kind of frames are lost. So to avoid that one, so this kind of protocol is provide that kind of reliability, which means we can able to control the flow control, because some duration the receiver may be slow rate or they may be engaged with some other customer. So on the situation, we are able to control the flow values, the information transmission rate, we control that one. So we can't able to missing our information. So the information accurately transmitted from the source to receiver, that is a major advantage of this protocol. And second one is frame relay protocol. So frame relay is a packet switching telephone communication system. While discussing about this X.25 protocol, there is these two things. One is virtual circuit as well as the private permanent circuit. But here in the frame relay, we are using as a packet switching telecommunication services. What is meant by packet switching telecommunication service here? So while we information transmit to any kind of packets, any kind of switching mechanism, we are using that one. Basically in the telecommunication services, we are going to introduce these kind of packet switching communications. So here while we establishing these kind of services, right, while using this internet protocol, while you see the architecture of this internet protocol, there also we are in this internet service provider, we are using that one, and we are in this network service provider using that one, and from this one some internet communication we are using that one. So here, so these kind of architecture where we establishing this one. So where we use this similar way, we are using this telecommunication services, we are using that one. So where they implement this packet switching communication, packet switching a circuit kind of circuit, we implement this one. So that is used for this a cost efficient data transmission for intermittent traffic data, which means that when we go for this, we mainly focus on this cost effective, because when we give the subscriber, we give the user to be focusing on how much cost it should be. So based upon this cost effective also, the people are thinking to buy or not. So we are go for this one. What kind of tools we are using that one, what kind of hardware mechanism we implement that one, that should be taken care of, but this must be cost efficient. So this frame relay, that should be cost efficient data transmission between the local area, which means the LAN system, between this end point of wide area networks, right? So in the long range communication, the large range communication, we having as a WANs are there. What is WAN? We having as a wide area network. So in the wide area network, multiple LAN communications are there. Multiple LAN communications are there. So we can able to integrating these LAN connections to my WAN connection, which is local area network to the wide area network. So here this should be acting as a vital role to communicate the information transmission between the LAN and the WAN connection, which means we calling as a intermittent traffic between the LAN and the WAN, which means the end point of WAN connection. At the same time, this frame relay puts the variable data size, because all the times we are not able to fix a frame size, because in some duration based upon the service provider, based upon the internet access system we are using that term, every frame which contains different kinds of sizes. So we can't able to put the specific size of frame perspective, because here the variable size should be variable, the size of my frame should be variable, and what kind of mechanism we are using that one, we should be entering into a system or leaving into a system. So, but we are able to focusing about this, the error correction mechanism. If any corrections are, for example, we are able to transmit this 3 frames, so we transmit that one. We are receiving only 2 frames, we are receiving that one. We are receiving frame 1 and frame 3, but we transmitted frame 1, frame 2, frame 3. In the receiving section, we are received frame 1, frame 3, but frame 2 is lost. So, in the situation, we are not going to retransmit entire 3 frames. What are the frames we lost? The frame 2 should be only go for this retransmission mechanism. Again, we put a request to the sender. This frame is lost. So sender has to be retransmit information. So that kind of service we provide that one. So retransmission of the same frame, not into the all the 3 frames. We retransmit the only second frame. That should be go for the cost effective manner as well. That should be putting out end point. It should be shows the impact by this speed of overall data transmission. Assume that one. For example, for 3 frames we transmit that one, it would take 3 seconds. Right? If you are getting this 1 frame is error, instead of this 1 frame is retransmitter, I need to retransmit the entire 3 frames. You should be wasting of this again 3 seconds. Right? So instead of this returns all the 3 frames, we go for this only frame to last. Right? It should be in the fraction of 1 second we are getting this frame to a retransmitter and we receive that one. It should be shows the impact by this bit rate analysis value and SNR rate analysis value, which means it shows the what kind of overall data transmission perspective. That is a major another advantage of this frame relay perspective. And another important thing, which means the most services we are using that one, right? Which means what kind of network provider mechanism we are using that one. That should be permanent virtual circuit, which means we're calling as a PVC, which means a permanent virtual circuit mechanism. That should be what kind of customers we are using that one, what kind of a dedicated service are using that one. And if we putting as a one dedicated mechanism, when we establish one kind of architecture, that should be a dedicated architecture for the customer. What kind of continuous manner we are using that one, what kind of information we transmit that one, what kind of information we receive that one, which means what is my requesting and what is my responding. Accordingly, so the information while we establish this virtual private connection network, so that should be customers is a continuous and a dedicated connection without having to pay any leased connection value, any kind of full-time leased line value. That should be provided to the each router. That should be provided each router, and that frame travel to its destination, it can change based upon the usage prospect. What kind of mechanism is that one, what kind of usage prospect you are using that one, it should be goes accordingly. And that is another advantage of this frame relay. So in this session, we are mainly focusing about these two scenarios. One is internet, which means what is internet meaning value and what is the architecture of this internet value. At the same time, we are discussing about these two protocols. One is X.25 protocol as well as the frame relay protocol. So these protocols are very important while establishing or while enabling the network layer or else host to host layer in the TCP/IP reference model. At the same time, this also involved in the physical medium or data link layer in the OSI reference model. So in the next session, we are detailed discussing about this public switching telephone network, which is PSTN, and at the same time we are discussing about this mobile phone telephone system, which means in this next session we are focusing about these two topics and how we are able to develop in this public switching telephone network and what are the stages we are developing about this mobile telephone system, which is from 1G to till in the 5G communication. What kind of changes we implement that on all the things and what is the architecture perspective we discuss in the next session. Thank you.